Gomer here with my fourth instructional video on GitSync. In this session we're going to set up Pluto to receive its changes in a push basis from Venus. In a previous video we set up Venus to pull its changes from Mercury. Pull peers are much more efficient than push peers, but the reason we're creating a push peer here is that Pluto has no account on Mercury, so it can't pull directly from Mercury. It can't pull from Venus because of a firewall restriction. So we set up Venus to pull from Mercury, then push to Pluto, store and forward. And we'll do that now. Here on Venus I have a watch going which reflects the changes that are going on here on Mercury. So that if I were to remove a file on Mercury, it gets removed on Venus. And if I add it back, it'll get added back on Venus. That's a review of what we did in the previous video. And here you see on Mercury's Git database log those two transactions that we did. Now the objective is to take those changes and reflect them on Pluto as well. Now on Pluto, we don't currently have the target directory, which is exactly the way we want. Venus will take care of installing the directory in the database on Pluto. We'll do that right now. So, from an existing node, like the one on Venus, if you do a git sync install push, specify the user, the host, and the directory. And of course you have to have SSH permissions to do this. That goes without saying. We're going to clone the database. It's going to SSH it over there. It's going to set up the remote tracking branch, which we'll see, and it's going to tell you what cron entry to install on Pluto, which we'll do now. Now, there wasn't a demo directory a second ago, but if we do that same find command now, we'll see that it has the database installed, but it doesn't have the working directory yet because GitSync hasn't run for the initial time to synchronize from its database to its working directory. So while we're waiting for that to happen, what I'll do is go into the administrative directory here on Venus. And we see that the push peer has been set up by the install script. We really only need one copy of that. You can edit this file as you choose. We really only need to specify that once. If we go into the database, we'll see that Pluto has been set up as a remote. Now, still waiting for these files to get synced. Oh, there they are. The files are now synchronized from the repository, the Git repository on Pluto, into the working directory. So if we go back and reinitiate the watch here, and we put up a similar watch here, we should see that changes that we do on Mercury, come on, have their effect on Venus, and they have the effect on Pluto. There's a latency because there are two invocations of GetSync happening here. One on Venus, which does the processing to pull from Mercury. Then on a subsequent invocation on Pluto, Pluto will receive and merge the push that Venus has sent it. So let's watch this again. If I touch a new file here, it appears here. Venus then pushes its changes to Pluto, and Pluto needs to merge those changes into its master directory, which we've seen it just happened here. It happens the same with modifies. So if I put some data in that new file, we should see that the size of it changes here, and then the size of it will change here. If we change the watch, we should see that changes happen almost in real time because we have the watches up and iNotify is being kicked off every so often. So you see that on Mercury we're modifying this new file, we're writing it to, is being reflected here in the Mercury database. We see the size being reflected here on Venus, and we see the data being pushed out here on Pluto. So this is my demonstration of setting up a push peer. In this case, changes on Venus get pushed to Pluto after Venus has received them from Mercury. In a subsequent video, we'll get even trickier, and we'll set up Venus as a read-write node, so that it is no longer just a reference copy to Mercury, but changes made on Venus will then be reflected on Pluto as well as changes on Mercury. And there are some interesting race conditions and Clauber conditions that we'll go over in a subsequent video. Thanks for watching this video, and look for my subsequent ones.